Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this really special event that we have planned today. My name is Nick Valentino. I am the Senior Director for International Programs at Kaplan. I've worked with international medical students from all over the world for the past 12 years that are on their journey of preparing for USMLE exams and applying for medical residency in the US. And really, no other event than students love more than what we're about to have today. And we really have a great panel of guests that are helping us, and that is students that have scored above 250 on their USMLE exams that are really on their path towards residency and really achieving their medical career goals. So we have Alessandro Valerio, Gianfranco Vitar Carlini, Jorge Perez, and Arti Ramu. Alessandra, Giancarlo, and Jorge all are from Venezuela. They went to medical school in Venezuela, and they took our in-center program at Kaplan, so came to the U.S. and studied at our Kaplan Center. Arti is a U.S. international graduate. Did her medical school in India and took our live online course for Step 1 and for Step 2. I'm sorry, I had this. Most everyone is applying for residency this year, except Gianfranco, right? You're applying next year? Right. So everyone really right in the midst of finalizing their applications, thinking about strengthening their application and getting ready for this challenging match year ahead. And from the poll, we see a lot of people are applying this year, a lot of people applying next year too, but really excited to be able to turn it over to them, give their feedback on what's worked well for them, what obstacles they have faced. And I want to encourage everyone, ask your questions. This is an opportunity to hear from them and help make smart decisions along your journey. So without further ado, let's hear from our audience. Alessandra, I'm going to start with you. Give us a little bit of background on, your travel, how you prepared for these things, any tips you have for students, obstacles that you really face that you can give advice to people.
Hey, okay, do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, well, hello, everybody. I'm Alessandra. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela. I graduated in 2013 in La Universidad Central. And I came to US in 2016. I started Kaplan in the year, but I have to stop for almost 2 years because I became sick. So I was diagnosed with cancer, and so I stopped my USMLE preparation. But after all my treatment and surgeries, I continue, and I was able to got a great scores in both Step 1, CK, and pass the CS. So that's pretty much my advice. You have to be persistent and you have to be tough with yourself, and that is very possible to do it, very possible.
Alessandra, I've worked with thousands of students, and, I know how hard it is to take a break. And regardless of all the challenges that you had to face, still be able to do that. That's really impressive, that you should really be proud of yourself for.
Oh, and I also have a son, so I mean, it was a top.
And I know he's only 5 years old. So on top of everything else that I know how busy that keeps your hands full. Alessandra, any tips that you have with regard to your preparation? Anything particular with the Kaplan program that helped you?
Yes. What I think the most important is to have a schedule and be attached to it as much as possible. If you are going to study 8 hours, 6 hours, whatever you are able to do it, you have to study those hours completely without distractions and without any other stuff that is going on. I mean, and you have to be in an emotional state. Is very important, the emotional state. Also, do as many as questions as you can. Read the books and the videos from Kaplan, and from that, do thousands of questions, as much as you can. Was the best way for me to be able to get a great score.
Thank you very much, Alessandra. Jorge, we'll pass it over to you. Jorge, for our guests out there, is actually a husband. So, obviously, you were facing similar obstacles along the journey. So, completely understand that. So, why don't you give us your experience, your feedback on the preparation process?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jorge Perez. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela, too. I'm graduate in 2008. And I did my residency in OBGYN in Venezuela, and then I did a fellowship on fertility in Venezuela. And in 2015, we came back to United States. And I'll say for us, it was very complicated, this process, because I start as 6 months, study hard, and then stop for a year and a half, 2 years. And then when you can try to start again, it's more difficult. But if you work hard, if you love the medicine and this is your dream, you need to go to push and continue on. For my advice for all the students that start to study right now is focus in each test. What I mean with that, for example, for step 1, we need to we need to know the basic stuff: anatomy, biochemistry, pathology. So when we are doctors already, that mentality is difficult to change because we are thinking about clinical stuff and management and treatment. But when you are studying for step 1, you need to go focus to the step 1 questions. What do I mean with that? For example, if you have patient with osteomyelitis or meningitis, your clinical knowledge say this person they need to receive antibiotics. But step 1, they ask you mechanism of action of that antibiotics. And that is a way you need to study all this process. And my second advice is you need what I mean, to share or to not study only biochemistry, not study only anatomy. You need to share and you need to integrate all this stuff. Is that the best way to study for Kaplan, with Kaplan.
Well, thanks, Jorge, for that. And it's good to hear you say that, because these are things that I tell students all the time. It's successful in the USMLE. It's about having that strong foundation. You have to put the time in, but then it's about really being able to tie the subjects together. And really, that's what our goal is at Kaplan, helping students integrate the subjects that they need to score above average. So glad that your advice is sort of the plan that we try and set up for our students, and obviously it worked well for you. Gianfranco, we'll go over to you. We'll round up our Venezuela team.
Venezuelan chapter. Sure. As Nick said, I'm from Caracas, Venezuela. I graduated on December 2017, and I practiced for 1 year in Venezuela on an underserved community and an underserved area, sorry. And then I came into the US to get ready for taking my USMLE exams. About how I studied, tips that I had, or that I have for you guys, is that I structured my preparation roughly on something that was strictly constant, which were, for me, it was flashcards, okay, that I started from day 1 all the way up to 2 days before my test, okay? And the variable phases of my preparation was to review the Kaplan material, first. Then I went into like a second round of reviewing the material with integration in classes with the live online, sorry, with live lectures. And then I moved to the practice phase testing, that is essentially solving as many questions as you can, um, and studying based on those questions. And if I have to, I have, I wrote like 5 tips for you. And the first one is to start questions early. You don't want to delay practicing. You don't want to delay reading and going through the questions, or getting used to uh, going through a whole hour sitting down and getting stuff, because you will have eventually to go through 7 hours, 7 blocks. So you do not want to delay this phase. And that's my first advice. Do some questions early. Uh, it doesn't matter if you do not know or if you do not master the subject. You just have to get used to going through those questions, going through the concepts that are asked or that are more frequently tested on. So that's an advice that I have for you. The other thing is that everyone in the Kaplan preparation say you have to find your method, your proper methods of studying. And at the very end, when you are on the student side, you usually your response to those kind of things is, and how do I do that? That is a silly, that is not important. Just tell me, how do I have to study? That is not the point. You have to find your method. Everyone learns differently, and there are some things that worked for me the most that doesn't work for someone else. And it doesn't mean that that my method is better than yours. It's different, and the best thing to do is the one that works for you. Okay, not the one that worked for everybody else. Okay. um, the other thing, Alessandra made this point when she was talking. You have to master 2 things. You have to master the knowledge, and you have to master your mindset. It makes the world of difference. If you go into the test, let's say you have a positive attitude, okay? You go into the test, but you keep repeating yourself, oh, I still have a lot of things to learn, and I'm going to use this test for learning. Although that's a positive way to view it, it's not the best way, because you have to get into the test saying everything that is being asked, everything I'm being tested on, it's material or is something that I already know. These are things that I already mastered. I just have to figure out, what do they want me to answer? That's the mindset you want to get for your test, because this will give you an inquisitive attitude on your question that will allow you to dissect the question and to get right into the answer. Okay. The other thing is, do not be afraid of being wrong. Okay. At the very end, sometimes this is a trial by error process. So sometimes you're going to have to face that perhaps what you're doing is actually not working the best for you. And the most important part is that you do not be afraid of acknowledge those things in order to improve them. Okay. Otherwise, it'll the preparation will be terrible for you, because you you will identify a mistake, but you will not correct it. And at the very end, this process is time sensitive. Okay. If you spend a lot of time and effort, and the effort that you're making is not uh, you're not reaping what you saw, okay, then it will automatically frustrate you, And I think that's the worst enemy for going through the USMLE preparation, frustration. Okay, so you have to fight that, and for that you have to see results, and for that you have to constantly evaluate your process to make the proper changes in your preparation. And the other thing is, do not be afraid of going forward in your preparation. Sometimes when you're studying and you go through all the Kaplan material, you think, wow, I went through all the Kaplan material. I went through, I don't know, I solved the whole Kaplan QBank, but I do not feel prepared for facing, for example, I don't know, other preparation tools such as UWorld, or I don't feel ready enough to go for an NBME self-assessment. Do not be afraid. You do not have to be afraid. This is not the actual test, okay? So go forward with your preparation, and sometimes you just have to get used to it on the way. And at least that's what worked for me. I was super scared, and I started UWorld like really late on my preparation, but at the very end, I got used to UWorld on the way. So those are essentially my advices to you guys.
John Franco, thank you so much. So many really good tidbits that you threw in there that I hope our students really took down. And, I've always said, it's a balance of foundation and integration. Really, Kaplan, we focus on it's a balance of content and questions. And you need to have that layer in throughout your entire preparation. Really always layering questions to assess yourself. In the beginning, maybe they're more topical questions. You're studying anatomy questions, studying biochemistry questions. Using that to really identify your gaps and your holes. And that's what successful USMLE preparation is all about. It's a lot of information. How do you effectively find out where your gaps are, address them, fix them, and then move on? And that's how you really constantly see yourself improving, and then start moving towards innovation and feeling the actual doing those things. So, really great takeaways from that. And another thing you mentioned, finding what works best for you, really important. Some people are more drawn to reading. Some people like to sit in class. Some people like to watch videos. We try to be a combination of everything because it helps with retention. So it'll say, read this chapter, then do a quick warm-up quiz, make sure you understood what you just read, then watch these videos, then do a follow-up quiz. Whole thing to help make sure you're understanding what you're learning before you move on. So, sorry for having any audio issues, trying to correct that. I'm turning it over to Artie, who is going to give her feedback.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arti Ramu. I completed my medical school in India in 2019, and I've been in New Jersey. I'm from the US. I moved to India for my 9th grade, and I was there for 10 years, and I just moved back. So my USMLE process isn't as I guess complex as it was for everyone else. But nonetheless, it was a tough process to go through. And I guess a lot of the tips that I'm going to be saying or talking about will be overlapping with what everyone has already said. So for me, I guess what really worked the best was that what I liked about Kaplan's course, I took the live online course for both step 1 and step 2. I really liked that it was a well-structured program. I usually study better with timetables, and I found that it helps to make a solid plan and like Alessandra said, stick to the plan. Even if you're gonna do 4 hours a day, that's okay, but stick to it and have a routine every day. You wake up in the morning. Some people, they might do a block of questions and then start studying like that. It's just an example. So stick to a schedule, and that will really help you out. I guess an important thing is that you have to understand what you're studying, especially for your step 1 topics. You go back to your basics, and you really have to understand the minute mechanisms behind everything that's taking place, so that while you continue in your process of studying, everything kind of seems to fall in place and everything seems to make sense. And you can take that information forward to your step 2 CK preparation and really utilize that when you're approaching your questions. That's something that, again, I really liked about Kaplan. The instructors were amazing. They really taught you everything you need to know. And like some people are like, that's so much knowledge, but that's okay, because once we have an understanding of all that knowledge, our test questions will seem a lot simpler to us. And that's something that I found very helpful with Kaplan. And something that I think Gianfranco was talking about, questions, really approach questions. It's difficult to mix like questions and studying, especially in the beginning of your preparation time. But as you move forward, try adding in more questions every day so that you get used to sitting for an hour a day, doing a block a day, and then maybe 2 blocks like that, so that you get used to the 7-hour test time of the actual step 1 exam, or 8 hours for step 2 CK. So even if you've studied everything and you have all the knowledge, there's a way to approach questions, and you only find your soft spot when you're approaching questions, when you take a lot of questions. Thousands and thousands and thousands of questions will really help you out. Like on test day, it like when you're looking at your questions, it'll seem a lot easier when you approach them, especially since you've seen so many of them in the past. So I know that we're all talking about you have to plan and study, but don't forget to include time to take a break. You know, if you're studying 6 days a week, take a day off. That's okay. For me, like I only took 1 year to study for my step 1, step 2 CK and CS. So for me, it was like back-to-back exams from August till August. So like you get burnt out if you're studying continuously. So make sure that you take a day off, or you can even take a week off. It's okay, but you should be able to listen to your body. When your body is telling you you need to slow down, that's okay. Take a break, get refreshed, and then come back to studying so that you can tackle everything with a new energy. And then something that like my dad always used to tell me that really helps me out is like, when you go for your exam, go in with like your full confidence. You know that you've put in all of your effort, your months and years of studying. And when you're studying for your exam, you feel like, you know, you might not remember everything you studied. Oh, this thing seems to like slip out of my mind. But on test day, when you're looking at that question, it will be there in the back of your head because you've gone through it so many times. So it's there. It'll be like a reflex. When you look at the question, you know the answer, or you'll be able to eliminate things and get your answer. So go into your exam confident. Don't worry about the outcome because that's not in our hands. We've put in all of our effort, maximum effort that we could do. And you go in confidently so that you don't have that anxiety and the questions, did I do this right? Did I do that right? In the back of your head while you're taking the test. Because I think for a good score, sure, like 80% is 70 to 80% is your knowledge, but the rest of it is your mindset on test day. You know, relax, eat a good breakfast, take food, stay hydrated, not too hydrated, or else you have to run to the bathroom like every 2 minutes. But yeah, so take it easy, work hard, and I'm sure you all will do really well. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Artie, and really, great feedback. I wanted to just ask you around the live online classes that you took. You know, any advice you have for students that are taking those? And everyone really, have taken our live lectures at some point. You know, everyone else at our Kaplan Center and Artie, you took the live onlines. And one thing I really try and stress to students is preparing before the classes, because they move quick. You want to go in really ready to integrate those subjects, like Jorge was saying. Can I just share a little feedback on your experience in those classes?
Okay. Yes, the integration, I wanted to talk about that, which I kind of forgot. So basically, one of the things that I really liked about the Kaplan classes is while they're taking one subject, they pull in the other subjects. So it kind of like helps us understand the correlation between the topics. And I know like a lot of people do pre-reading before the class and then attend the class and then actively take notes and then like read afterwards as well. But for me, since I was running on like a short time frame of like 5 or 6 months, what I did was I didn't have the chance to pre-read. So what I would do is I do like a block of questions in the morning and then attend the lecture. And then after class, I would go through like all the topics that they went through that day. And if like, something from the previous day kind of didn't make sense, I'd go back to that. And if there are like certain topics where they integrate, I would try to go to that particular chapter in that subject, just to like get the understanding complete and make the connections. And yeah, if you have time, again, go back to questions. Something that, especially for my step 2 prep, that really helped out was I do the subject-wise questions first while you're doing like the subject you're learning in the class, so that you have like a parallel understanding of how to attempt those questions. And as your preparation moves forward, bring in your mixed questions as well. So yeah, I think that's it.
No, that's great. We got a couple of questions from the audience. I just want to get, anyone can feel free to really jump in. But everyone's curious how long it took everyone to prepare for step 1. And so if you could really share that. And then another question we got, the last 2 weeks before the exam, any tips, advice, what you guys did? John Franco, you want to start with you?
Yeah, sure. About how long did it took me to take the test? Well, I prepared for about a year, like 11, 12 months. But the problem was that at the time when I was supposed to take my test and I had already my appointment or whatever, everything got suspended because of coronavirus. So I had to postpone my test 2 months after, because that was basically the availability. And I ended up during those 2 months trying to keep up and not to fall and not to drop my scores on the NBMEs and you work tech assessments and those kind of things. Okay, so that's how long it took me. But this is a really variable process. I know from people, for example, Arthi, that took a lot of tests in just 1 year, and I know a lot of people that have gone through preparation and they spend I don't know, perhaps 1 year and a half, 2 years, even more, and even more time if you have um, inconvenient situations, things that are unexpected, such as Alessandra's situation, and things that are tough. So you have to take your time. Okay, the average is between, I don't know, perhaps 14 to 16 months. That's a rough average, and on people that do not have like further problems. Okay, at least that's what I've heard. That's what I've been exposed to. And about the second question was, Nick.
The last 2 weeks.
Okay, the last 2 weeks before the exam. Well, the last 2 weeks before the exam, I even encourage you to do this more weeks before, like the whole month before the exam. I took like simulations. Okay, and I went, I picked one day of the week and I went through uh 7 blocks, just like it would be on the test, practice my breaks, practice my kind of my meals during those breaks, and how much water should I take in every break in order not to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes. Okay, and the other thing is that I'm basically fueled by caffeine. And on the test, you cannot take too much caffeine, because caffeine intoxication makes you go to the bathroom a lot. So you have to measure that, especially if you're addicted to coffee as I am, okay? And so that's what I did, like perhaps 6 weeks before the exam. One time a week, I would go through these simulations. And the other thing is that on the last week, you shouldn't do new questions, okay? Because the anxiety, or at least for me, the anxiety that comes with getting closer to the test and going through new questions that will perhaps making you, okay, I'm supposed to know this. I'm 1 week away from my exam. What am I going to do? You do not want to get those kind of feelings on your last week. I mean, do not do this to yourself, okay? And that's what I would advise. And the day before the test, do yourself a favor and do not review anything, like anything at all. Just chill out, watch Netflix, watch some movies, go to the park, whatever, do some exercise. Do some exercise the day before the test, so the tiredness of the exercise will let you sleep against the anxiety of the test the day after, okay? So you catch a good night of sleep and you go fully prepared for your test, okay?
Jorge or Alessandra, you want to share? I know you guys had to take the break, so maybe try and consider, when you really started back up again, or, whatever you feel.
Okay, well, it took me 10 months, almost 10 months to study for the step 1. As soon as I came back, well, it was hard for me to restart all the process. But in that moment, I just watched the videos from Kaplan and the books, those subjects that I knew I wasn't prepared for the Cubans. So I didn't watch all the videos again, just the ones that I thought was important. And I start with questions in the moment, like Gianfranco said.
Mm-hmm.
I start with the questions in the first day, actually, that I restart with the test. Sorry.
I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so they're regularly joining my work call, so no worries.
What else? About the 2 weeks before the test, I did the flashcard, and I did the your second assessment. Studied that your assessment, and that's it. I didn't sleep at all the day before, but in the moment, with the adrenaline of the test, I mean, you're going to be fine. And actually, I saw something about anxiety. I was dying that day, but my husband took me to the center, and I was about to leave. Like, I can't do this today. It's not my day. But he was like, you have to do it. You have studied so hard for this. And thank God I listened to him, because it was great for me. But if you study hard and if you prepare, you are going to be fine. I'm pretty sure about it. And please do not compare with other person. Do not compare your score, your time. I mean, everybody has their own battles, so it's gonna be fine.
Good, Jorge. Anything else you want to add on that?
For me, I took like a year and a half, not year and a half, like 14 months, okay, after all this process with Ale. And I have the lucky to get the live lecture. 1 month before my test. And for me, that was amazing because I went to the live lectures with all my knowledge, and that 8 weeks or 9 weeks, I don't remember how long, give me like a focus in the important things to know. And I just remember I finished my live lectures Sunday, and I took the test next Sunday. So for me, it was a amazing time, the live lecture. And now let's say my best advice is don't compare yourself with anybody, okay? Because we are some different people, we are some different persons, but this long process, this hard process, for sure you can go through it. Just work hard, and like I say, I hard work, I luck I get. So
it's really important for students to hear, and something I tell students all the time. And one of the most important things about Kaplan is your scores don't lie to you. You know what your strengths are. You know what your weaknesses are. Don't focus on what other people are doing, because they're going to have different strengths and weaknesses. But identifying your holes, your gaps, addressing them, fixing them, and then moving on. So that's really our goal at Kaplan, is giving you effective ways to identify those. Artie, how about you? How long for step 1 and maybe the step 2 as well?
So I took my step 2 CS first. I took like a few weeks prep for that. And then once I was done with that, I jumped into my step 1 prep. I took a solid 6 months, hardcore studying 6 months. In one way, I guess I'm lucky. I didn't have like family responsibility and other stuff that, other distractions for me. It was just studying all day long. So it's different for like each person, but for me, that seemed to work the best. Then I took a month break, and then I took about like 5 months of relaxed studying for my CK exam. So 2 weeks before the exam, I'm pretty much gonna say what Gianfranco also said. Practice your full-length sitting exams, 7 hours with your break scheduled in, how you're gonna take your breaks on test day, when you're gonna eat, what you're going to eat, and everything, water, everything has to your body has to get used to it, because it's normally not used to sitting for that long and having your brain active for so many hours to take the test. And especially now with the coronavirus, don't forget to practice sitting with your mask for so long. For me, between step 1 and step 2, that was the big difference. So that could be something you'd have to get used to. And yeah, from maybe like a month, maybe even 6 weeks out from your test date, start taking like your NBMEs and like see how your scores going. And on your NBME score report, you can see which subjects you're doing better or not so great in, so that you can focus your attention on those specific subjects you're not doing that great in. And then you can progressively see your scores increasing. And then certain tests are more predictive, as they say. So my recommendation would be to keep that towards the end, so you kind of really know what score range you'd be able to get right before you take the test. And yeah, day before the exam, don't study, don't cram. I mean, for me, that's kind of what works. The anxiety of everything, I can't learn new stuff. Like I had little flashcards, like 2 or 3 of them with tiny little tidbits or acronyms, mnemonics, that I just looked through that day for like maybe half an hour, and that's it. Watch TV, eat, relax, let your mind kind of do its own little thing, distract yourself from the stress of the exam, and make sure that you sleep well, because your brain has to be active for that long before you take the test. So yeah, but like everyone said, don't compare yourself with anyone else. There's no right way to prepare for your step exams. So take your time, figure out what's best for you, and work with your own plans and everything will, end out to be really well for everyone. So yeah.
That's, it's good to mention, because a lot of people think about, we stress in that final month doing the full length exams. And a lot of people think about to see how close you are to your goals. And of course, that's an important part of it. But really, it's also about the timing, the pacing of an 8-hour day. You wouldn't prepare for a marathon by just doing sprints. You got to get your body prepared to perform at top peak, sitting and reading questions for that long. So really important part of the process. I want to shift gears a little bit. We're getting a lot of questions about clinical experience and observerships and research and all the, the other things that make your application strong, in addition to high USMLE scores. So just curious on your guys' experiences, what you've done, how you found it, and any other advice you have for people that are looking for experience. Anyone, go for it.
Yeah, I found my 3 clinical rotation, thank God, before the pandemic. Or when this whole COVID-19 pandemic, the thing was changed a lot, because the hospital don't accept new people, new research, and new people to work in the hospital, because increase the risk of the COVID-19. But I wrote a lot of email, a lot of doctors of OBGYN part in Miami, and I have a answer for them. So, yeah, for sure, come here to my office. I get the interview and work. I start with work with them 3-4 weeks. That's my way to I did all my observership, and were amazing doctors.
John Franco, have you done any experiences yet?
Well, to be honest, I haven't gone through clinical experience yet, because when everyone advised me to go into clinical rotations once I was done with my step 1. So that's what I tried to do. Once I finished with my step 1, I tried to go to the clinical rotations. But as Jorge said, because of the COVID-19 situation, new applications for programs, observerships, internships, clerkships, hands-on training, research, of those are pretty static right now, and we're kind of just waiting for like the transmissions to go down, the new cases to go down a little bit more, and well, I'm just waiting for that. Although I am currently trying to get involved with like an online journal that is basically publishing a newsletter, a medical newsletter, on the use of artificial intelligence in medicine, and that's the project I've been working on recently, in order to to gain experience, to get into the academic and communications field, and while I wait for this pandemic situation thing to stabilize, in order for me to get into the clinical experience part of the process.
Well, you obviously definitely have time, and I'm starting to see some clinical opportunities open up again where people can actually go in person. So, again, you are applying next year, so you do have some time, but good to hear that you are doing something in the meantime. I know a lot of people that were applying this year and they didn't have any opportunities and they didn't know what to do. And, program directors that I spoke to said, do whatever you can. If it's a telehealth rotation, it shows programs you're committed. It shows them that you want to do anything that you can to get exposure, to learn. So just continue taking advantage of those opportunities is never a bad idea for anyone to strengthen their application. Artie, how about you?
So I did 2 months of clerkships, and I just did 1 hands-on rotation. So I guess I can tell from my experience from India. I'm not really sure how medical schools work in other countries, But for us, we have like 4.5 years of theoretical knowledge with clinical rotations. And the last 1 year is our internship year where we are only in the hospital. So that internship year, towards the end, the last 2 months, I applied for clerkships in the United States. So approaching different programs that you can do your clerkships at, they do say that it's advisable to have your step 1 done before you apply, because you have a wider range of programs you could apply to. But I only took my step 1 after I finished my internship in India. So there are like, there were, I mean, I'm talking about pre-COVID. There were like 8 to 10 programs that did accept students, university programs that accepted international students for clerkships. So I just emailed them. They had applications online. You can just Google it and you'll be able to find which programs are accepting those students. Reach out to them, send out emails, and if they are okay with your application, then they'll take you in, and then you can do your rotations in whichever department you choose to do it in. But with COVID right now, I mean, maybe they're starting to open up, but earlier in the year when I was asking around about observerships, they said they're not accepting students right now, especially because of the risk of transmission and exposure. So there are like certain independent companies that help arrange for hands-on rotations and observerships, so you could try working through them. And there are like tele-rotations as well. So people who are applying this year, it's definitely something to consider, tele-rotations and hands-on rotations through agencies. It will be a little expensive, but especially if you're applying for this year, then I guess if you are able to do that, then that is a good option for you. But if you're applying next year or the year after, then maybe you can like take some time to wait for the programs to start reopening and accepting students, so that the experience that you get at a university hospital versus a clinic is very different. And I think it's really great if students can have both exposure to both types of areas. So take your time, figure out which programs that you find are interesting for you, and send out your applications, and you can move from there.
Sorry, I was on mute. A lot of people are asking about, where to find these opportunities. And, it sounded like Jorge was really able to put himself out there, network, and find opportunities on his own, which, can take some time, but is a really good way to go. And like Artie and Gianfranco said, there are organizations that you can work with to help you sort of get placed. If there are opportunities through your medical school, definitely take advantage of those. We recommend AMO opportunities, and we could put a link in the chat for students to take a look at. They just have opportunities all across the U.S. They have telehealth opportunities, and always have gotten good feedback from our students. So that's generally who we recommend our students if they are looking for paid opportunities. So really appreciate your feedback there. I always tell students, like Gianfranco said, I do generally tell students to focus on step 1 so that they can put their attention, make sure they're scoring above average on step 1, but also they can make smart decisions about their clinical experience. If you score a 250 on step 1, like everyone here did, well, then I would tell you, you could do your clinical experience anywhere. You want to go to a bigger name institution and rub elbows with some fancy doctors, go for it, right? Because you're already going to be in a good position to get interviews, get your application looked at, and that's going to strengthen your application. But if step 1 is average or even a below average, well, then you're really thinking about networking, meeting doctors, putting yourself out there, showing them you're a hard worker, and that could potentially open up your door. So that's why it's really about understanding this entire process and making smart decisions along the way for you. Everyone's going to be different year of graduation, different scores, different experience. Then you have to make decisions on how to, I strengthen my application. We got a lot of questions about applying this year. And I know 3 of you are applying this year. It's a challenging year for people with getting their ECFMG certification and really finalizing things. Artie, I know you mentioned you were able to take step 2 CS, so that was obviously a benefit for you, which challenged for a lot of people. Jorge, Alessandro, was it the same for you? Were you able to get CS in before it was suspended?
Yeah. We had the CS, and we we can use this pandemic time and when all the clerkships and rotation are closed to study to a step 3. And I did step 3 already. So
we got a question about step 3. Any advice you have there? Much harder than step 2. What were your thoughts?
It's not easy, okay, because it's like a mix between step 1 and step 2. And the first day you have a lot of questions from exactly the step 1. And the second day was more similar to the CK, and you are very focused on work in the clinical case. So, but that's another issue about all this step process. When you start your step preparation, you only think about step 1, step 1, step 1, step 1, step 1, and it's not only a step 1. Step 2 CK is harder. Step 3 is hard. So you need to move on and step by step and enjoy the process. Enjoy the first step 1, enjoy your CK, enjoy your CS. So, but all 3 tests are very, very similar in difficulty for me.
Any other tips for people that are applying this year? Anything that you've seen so far? I know programs haven't gotten the applications yet. We're a little bit delayed this year. Have you heard anything regarding interviews? Any tips that you have for people preparing to apply this year?
So I'm not sure if you guys are part of the Twitter community. There is a Med Twitter community on Twitter, and there are a lot of people who are applying for match this year. And a lot of programs, like you can follow the residency programs on Twitter, and they have virtual open houses where you get a chance to interact with program directors and possible residents, depending on like which program is taking care of it. And there are a lot of organizations that are helping bring together a lot of programs so that you can talk to a couple of programs in like a 1-hour session. And given that it's going to be mostly virtual interviews this year, I think that's a great opportunity to interact with program directors and just get a feel of how to do things on Zoom, because that's something very new for all of us this year. So those who are applying this year, that's definitely something to look into. #MedTwitter is, I think, the main thing. And then they have like PEDS Match 21, IM Match 21, depending on whichever department you guys are interested in. So that's something you can look out for this year.
And how did you guys decide what programs to apply to? How many programs did you apply to? Or will you apply to?
Yeah, for example, in our case, and Alessandra and I, we have a lot of work to do because we are couple. We are thinking about and apply to a couple match. We need to find a city the more IMG friendly. We are both have had a great scores, but I have more than 10 years of graduate. So you need to handle all that factors and put in the balance and say, I'm going to look forward these cities, these hospitals, and so far so good, so on. So that is our case, okay? Because we need to think about our child too, and it's not easy. It's not easy. It's complicated, but we can do it for sure. We can do it.
And couples match, a lot of people have questions about that. From my experiences, the percentages are higher, and it's especially better when you have 2 strong candidates. When you have one candidate that's here, one candidate that's a little bit here, it could be more of a challenge. But when programs see they're going to get 2 great residents for the price of 1, generally you see pretty good statistics around that. So,
yeah, believe it or not, the program love the couple match. because they want to a partner, or they want a couple to stay and work hard in the hospital, and maybe why not stay in the hospital like attending in the future. So there are a lot of hospital wants to a couple match, like wants a family to stay, and that's it. And the hospital, then they give you opportunity. And as you say, is if you are a good candidate, you are a strong candidate, is easier to get the residency. But that item, a couple match, is like a little mystery about all match. It's like yeah, I know a couple match, but not a lot of people know the risk, the benefits, and that's it.
Artie, how about you? How many programs are you planning on applying to? Only one specialty?
Yeah, I'm going to apply to OBGYN. Yeah, around roughly 80, 1,000. 100, pardon. Sorry. 80, 100. Yeah.
How about you, Artie?
But more focus on a city and where IMG are more friendly, like New York, New Jersey, Texas, Florida, and Detroit in area of Michigan. That's the areas of more IMG friendly have.
Artie, can you share too how many programs you're applying this year?
Sure. I'm going to be applying for just pediatrics, and my focus is mostly the Northeast region. My family is from New Jersey, so I'm going to be applying to the New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, all the way up to Maine. So that is about, like, I want to say 70 plus programs. So the thing is, I know that there are certain programs that are IMG friendly, and that's my focus. That's where I'd really like to match. But given that we are IMGs, I'm going to be applying broadly and hoping that I get interviews in a couple places, so that hopefully I can match into a good place. I know it's a little different for like US graduates. They usually don't apply to as many programs. Especially this year, they have like a thing where they're like, let's see if we can apply to less programs so that other students have a lot of opportunities as well, so that the applications don't get mixed up with everyone. But as an international graduate, I guess it's a little difficult. So yeah, applying broadly for one particular specialty, I think is a good idea. And that's what I'll be doing this year.
And generally what we recommend too. Some students apply to more than one specialty, and that's okay. And it's definitely okay to have some reach programs, but just like when you're applying to a university, you want to make sure you're applying to programs that you think are a good fit for you. And I also just want to remind everyone, like Artie said, we're planning on Zoom interviews this year. And I think, a lot of people may be a little bit worried about that. And, I think a lot of people are thinking about it in terms of, well, am I going to be able to showcase my best self over Zoom? And just like with any interview, you want to practice, you want to be comfortable, go to Google, type in common residency interview questions. And, you don't want to be robotic, but you want to have a plan. If you get a question like, tell me about a difficult case that you saw, you want to have something in the chamber. You don't want to be sitting there thinking for a few minutes. But one thing I want to remind everyone that I haven't heard a lot of students talking about is, thinking about it from the other angle. You ultimately are going to be working at this program for the next years of your life, and not being there in person is a challenge. You don't get to see what it feels like. How do the residents act? What's the atmosphere? What's the community look like? So really more important now than ever to do your research before, learn about the program, have questions ready to go. And I think that's how everyone will really get the most out of these interviews this year. So with that, we are at time. I told everyone the hour would fly by, and it really did. I want to thank everyone so much for their time. I know how busy you are with everything that's going on. Alessandra, you should send this video to program directors and say, I could balance a seminar and my 5-year-old. I can handle anything. And you did. So we appreciate it. And all of you, thank you so much for sharing your time. Like I said in the beginning, no better for our students to hear from people that were in their shoes, that were successful, and are really taking the next steps in their medical journey. So I wish all of you the best of luck this year that are applying. John Franco, finalizing your applications for next year. You guys have all put yourself in a position to be successful, and I'm happy Kaplan can have a little part of that along the way.
Nick, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I hope it's okay. I did see a question addressed directly to me, and I was okay if I could just take a minute to
Please.
address that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I got a question asking how did I get a clerkship in the United States? So like I said, I Googled up programs, and this was before I took my step one. So Harvard, Cornell, Stanford, UAB, Mount Sinai, I think UMass, FIU, and a couple others. I'm not able to remember all of them. So a few of these programs, they do accept students without your step one score. So I went to their website, and they had details on like the application process. So I sent out applications and everything that they asked for. And then I was able to get into Cornell for a month and FIU for a month. And if you have your step one, you have more opportunities. So yeah.
Can you repeat that Twitter handle, Artie, too?
It's hashtag medtwitter, MEDTWITTER. I'll just put it in the chat box if that's okay.
Sure.
Sandra,
go ahead.
Something. Yes. Send as many email as you want. Don't be afraid of being rejected. You are going to be rejected by a bunch of doctors here. Yay! So send emails every day to persons. Be persistent. It's a way that you can show doctors that you are very interested in doing a rotation with them. I did my clerkship, and I send emails like crazy. Please, please, I'm gonna apply for pediatric as well. And please send email to everyone. Someone is gonna say yes.
That's all it takes.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you again so much for your time. I hope everyone joining got a lot of good tips out of this session. And we're here to offer our support. Take advantage of the free seminars that we have at Kaplan, the free trials of our programs and our questions, and look forward to helping everyone on their journey. So thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your day.